Good morning and welcome to Because Growth Matters. I'm so excited to be sitting down with our guest today, Stephen Oommen. I've already broken him pre-recording. He's in fits and giggles, so I'm hoping to get it back on track. This is a gentleman who redefines the way we think about sales and specifically about prospecting and networking. Stephen doesn't believe in cold calls or cold emails. Instead, he's teaching us how to build a go-to network culture, generating unlimited warm referrals and authentic connection. Stephen challenges people to think about how they are thinking with a focus on relationships, networks, and real-world revenue results. Stephen, I've been following you for so long on LinkedIn. I've been reading and absorbing your inputs, your opinions, your travels. I'm so excited to have finally pinned you down. Welcome to Because Growth Matters.
Well, I really appreciate you allowing me to be here. I think of it as a privilege, and I'm just happy that it finally is happening.
If you are dialing in and watching the video, you'll see that Stephen is built for camera. He's a good-looking, imposing gentleman, and he comes with an American accent. Where do you call home, Stephen?
I currently live in Dallas, Texas, just south of Dallas in a suburb near the Cowboys Stadium. So if anybody knows who the Dallas Cowboys are, whether you like them or hate them, I'm about 15, 20 minutes south of their stadium.
So, Stephen, just diving into your psyche, if you had to take any two people alive today to dinner, where would it be and who would you bring?
Right now, I think someone in the realm of maybe personal development. I don't know if it would be a John Maxwell or a Tony Robbins, because not whether somebody likes them or doesn't like them, but just understanding how they started in their journey. That's one. But I would also probably think about maybe some sort of comedian, because of the way that art and that discipline. So maybe a Kevin Hart or maybe an entertainer like a Dwayne Johnson, because I love the stories of coming from nothing. And most people see the tip of the iceberg and like all the greatness they have. But if you ever read any of their actual stories, man, most people would not want to go through those type of journeys. One of my principles in life when I think about connection with people is things around a pattern interrupt, which I actually first heard that term from Tony Robbins, which is probably why he popped into my head. But my biggest pattern interrupt is, can I get you to smile? Can I get you to laugh? If I know that I can do that, man, we're going to be friends. I've got you. We're going to be connected. So while I'm not a comedian, it's still the same thought process in my mind, is just how can I connect with you through humor, through laughter, through smiles.
Where would you bring them?
Man, I would probably do something like a basketball court. I don't know that I would sit over dinner or anything like that, but I'd want to be in some sort of activity, maybe just take a walk and just fresh air, that sort of thing. Something where we can talk and move at the same time so the brain operates a bit differently.
You talk about that a lot, and I like that in your networking. You're always out there meeting people and you're asking these questions of them. And I really admire the fact that you take it out of the boardroom into real life. Was that a deliberate strategy? And before you say that, if I had to explain to my neighbor what you do and why people pay you, how would you explain it? Because it was better than the bio, but for sure.
It is so funny because I was just talking to one of my friends about redoing my LinkedIn banner. Literally, we were texting, and then I jumped on this recording, and she asked me the same thing, because clarity matters. And as she was asking me these questions, I was like, man, how do I condense that very thing? And it is a struggle, because why do people hire me? Why do people bring me into their companies? It's because of one fundamental problem, and that is the fact that in the world of sales, in the world of prospecting, most people have over pivoted to cold outbound because technology allows us to scale. So what has happened is we have sacrificed effectiveness in the name of efficiency. And it's not that I don't believe, you said something in the intro, it's not that I don't believe in cold email or cold calls. I just think there is a place for it, and it's at the end of our efforts in prospecting, because if we can go get to know people, the reason people pay me is because I can come into a company and within 2 weeks, I can turn an organization into a warm referral engine where everyone in that company is referring business to that sales team, because I can promise you, the people that can give you access to the decision maker that you're going after are literally already in your network. Nobody thinks to just ask, because no one thinks their cousin, their best friend, their teacher, oh, they're not in my world, so they can't possibly know anyone. But instead of peppering people with, thousands of cold calls, depending on if you believe in the 6 degrees of separation, whether you believe it's scientific or not, the concept is that everyone is connected. And if I meet enough people, someone is going to introduce me to the person that I'm trying to get to. The second part of this is the most foundational. It's, how do you become referable? I can meet everyone on the planet, but if they don't know, like, and trust me, why would they want to put me in front of someone that they trust? Those are the two fundamental components that drive revenue faster than peppering someone with a bunch of cold outbound, cold emails. Even if you're solving a problem, that remains the same. Part of being referable is the same things that people teach in cold outbound. The modality is just different, but doing it the right way is still the same, which is, does someone effectively have a prioritized problem that I can solve?
There is a mic drop moment there. Everyone is connected, and you have to be referable. Do they know, like, and trust you, what you do? Wow. Did you get into this fresh out of college? How did you end up in this sort of environment? What's the steps in the journey?
Yeah, you asked a really powerful question. Was, when I think about the stuff that I do, is it strategic? And I will be blatantly transparent. Sometimes you just stumble into things and you look back and you observe and you wonder why they work. Now, I can tell you that there are certain things I did strategically, and because I did those things strategically, it brainwashed me into probably doing things that I think were on accident and that I stumbled into. So I'll tell you the things that I did purposely, and I'll tell you the things that I think were accidents, but probably really wasn't. I grew up very, very poor. Well, I'll say lower middle class. I thought I was poor because you know, I was a child of immigrant parents. And when immigrant parents come to this country, especially from my past and culture, right? Asian type culture, Indian culture, as first generation kids, we think our parents don't have money because that's just the way that they operate. Hey, we don't have money for that. So coming out of college, I wanted to earn an income, make more money, all of that type of stuff, right? It was baked into me, because when you grow up not having or being told you can't have something, it probably lights a fire. And so I sought out mentors, coaches, people that was promising, here's how you make money. Some of them good, some of them bad. I'm not saying all of them are great. I'm not saying all of them are bad, right? You have to have a little bit of wisdom in finding the right coaches and mentors. But the ones that were good, they taught me about showing up in other people's world, how to bring value to them, don't chase the money, like all these different things. So I believe because of that, I probably did things that I think were by accident, but it was already baked into my psyche because I was chasing the money. So I chased people that I believe, and I got mentors and coaches that I believe could help me in that arena. And so when I think about this idea of networking, actually what happened is last year when I retired out of corporate America, I was sitting with one of my business coaches, and essentially, I was thinking about what's next. I left the workforce to spend time fully with my family and kids because I'd been doing this for 25 years. Honestly, I was like, what's the point of continuing when my kids right now are young and I have the opportunity? I mean, I'm not saying everybody has that opportunity, but if I do, why would I not take it? But very quickly, I realized, you know what? I now understand why people continue to work because you can get bored very, very quickly.
Soccer games are overrated. Do you know being the drop off parent is overrated?
I mean, it sounds horrible to say, but when we raise our kids, we want them to, we really should be modeling what we expect them to be. So there's probably something to that. But here's basically what happened. As I looked at what can I help the world, where can I go impact? Because I'm in a place where it's mission over money. And the mission that I have is to help this next generation and even the current generation of go to market individuals, sellers, marketing, customer success, the entire go to market profession connect more deeply instead of spamming the world, right? Well, part of what I did when I observed and I looked back at all the revenue I have generated over the course of my career, over 98% of all the revenue I've generated has actually been because of warm referrals. I never realized that till last year because I've done over almost 200,000 cold calls manually in my career. When they started with the auto dialers and all that type of stuff, I'm probably closer to about 1 million cold calls. But what I realized is when I looked at the actual revenue, the things that I was selling for cold calls, I was highly successful in very small type of revenue generating things like credit cards back in the day, gift cards, magazines, phone plans, things of that nature. When you get into the multi-million dollar type of deals, especially the more upmarket you go, I just realized all those were because of my network. You have to have a high level of trust because you're talking about significant amounts of money. Even if you're talking about a couple $100,000 deal, the more upmarket you go, the more the trust is there. So a lot of what I train right now is because I've observed and broken down what has worked. And now that I interview a lot of people, I'm like, okay, this is actually repeatable. And no one is training people how to actually go do this stuff because everyone is training people how to do cold emails, cold calls, business point of views, all of that type of stuff, which is great. Let me teach people the best, most effective modality to connect with two people and to connect to the person you're trying to get in front of.
What is a three-step process that we can start today for someone who's never going to work with you, but really wants to up their sales team's game? What is kind of the three things they should do?
Okay, so I think you have some sort of spyware on my laptop because I was literally writing that this morning for a post. Literally the 3 to 4 steps that in the hook of my LinkedIn post says, if I were starting at 22 in sales, here's how I would generate warm referrals and the exact steps. I will give those to you, but facetiously, I would tell anybody listening to this, the first step is obviously to bring me into your company and to hire me. I'm semi kidding, but obviously, I would love for anyone to bring me in to speak to their sales team, right? So here's the steps. Number one is you got to have the belief, and this is part of the first step. You have to have the belief that you do have a network. If you look at any wedding planner or any funeral director, if you ask anyone, what is the average number of people that show up to a wedding or funeral, they may say anywhere between 150 and 250 people. So usually most people will invite about 150 to 250 people to their wedding. Most funerals, about 150 to 250 people show up. So what it tells you is it doesn't matter where you are in your journey. Typically you have at least 150 to 250. So the very first step is to literally, without bias, map your network. Literally write down in a Google Doc, in an Excel spreadsheet, every name of every person you know. And what I tell people is to just put these 5 qualifiers across as column. Think of geography. So where do they live? What company do they work for? What title do they hold in their company? What is the function of what they do? the industry. So if you're brand new and you're selling into manufacturing, for example, who are the people you know in manufacturing? So those are your 5 very specific qualifiers that I tell everyone to map out. Once you map that out, you also, if you're in B2B or if you're in B2C, D2C, it doesn't really matter. Map out your own territory. What are your prioritized accounts? What are your industries? What are the personas and the types of people that you're going after? So you kind of understand what this next and third step, what you're going to be asking, right? So once you know your territory, your third step is start connecting with your prioritized list of your network. How do you prioritize your list? Who likes you and trusts you? Because these are people who obviously you know, but some people, and this goes back to being referable. The foundation of all of this is if people don't like you and trust you, you've got some work to do. That's not the point of this topic today, but I would hope that most people have at least a few people in their network that likes them, trust them. If you are not a good human being, if you don't like to
Don't
help
get into
people,
sales.
yeah, I'm sorry, I can't. I really just can't help you. I'm assuming that's the foundation of anyone listening to this is you believe you're a good human being, you want to solve somebody's problem, and yes, you deserve to get paid. There are different viewpoints. I'm a big believer, especially at this point in my life, that mission over money. If you're only focused on making money, you're going to struggle and it's going to take you longer. It's hard to explain that when you're just getting out because now that I'm on 25 years down the path and I were to try to explain this to my 20-year-old self, I'm sorry, my 20-year-old self still would not listen because I had mentors that explained this to me when I was that age. So it's just hard. Sometimes experience is the best teacher. But in that third one, what you want to do is map out and prioritize who likes and trusts me the most, who's probably willing to help me. I get on the phone with those individuals and I ask a question in one of these formats, and you can mix and match the way that you ask this question. But the 2 fundamental things that I ask is, "Hey, Daniel," after obviously having a conversation. If I have to teach some of the basics of human etiquette, we'd be here forever. But obviously, we're having a conversation, and one of the things that I'm thinking about psychologically is when I network, I'm not there to just ask for something in return. I'm there to invest. I'm there to learn. So if I call Daniel up and say, "Daniel, I was listening to this guy on a podcast and I'm trying to really expand my network, and I realize that I don't invest enough in other people. I just want to get to know more about you. I don't care if you're my cousin, man. Like, if it's my cousin, like, tell me a little bit about what you do. I want to learn more about you and see if there's anything I can do to help you." That's the first and foremost, genuinely, right? Is there a problem? Is there a way I can support you? Is there someone I can connect you with, right? So it's a philosophical way you've got to think first. A lot of this is foundational, but the tactical side is near the end. What I ask you is I'll say, "Daniel, can you tell me, I want you to just think about the first 1, 2, or 3 people that pop into your head when I ask you this question." And that question is this: who is someone that you personally know that you highly respect? Who is someone you personally know that you highly respect? And you can qualify it like, hey, maybe they're a mentor, they're a business person, like wherever. So that's the 2 foundational qualifiers. Sometimes I'll add, who's like somebody you personally know that's the most analytical that you really respect? Who's the most humorous person that you know that you highly respect? Who's the most whatever, right? So some sort of adjective. Now remember those 5 qualifiers. If I want to be very specific, and I know that you likely, let's say you come from the manufacturing world, or you come from retail and consumer goods. Let's say that you come from technology, whatever you come from. And that's also an industry that I'm selling into because, again, you got to have some wisdom. If you prioritize your list based on who knows you, likes you, and trusts you, and then you also mapped out your territory list and you're primarily manufacturing, I would hope logic dictates you reach out to the people that know, like, and trust you that are also in manufacturing, right? So, anyways, so if I ask that, I'll use these qualifiers and I'll say, you know what, maybe Daniel, you're in South Africa. Hey, and I actually have accounts that are in South Africa. Daniel, who do you know that personally knows you? analytical that is, you highly respect in manufacturing in South Africa. That might be in supply chain. That might be the same qualifiers that you think about that you want to go after. The more you qualify down, the less likely they're going to come up with a name. Some people will say qualify down. And again, this is part of the wisdom. We don't have time to teach every aspect. But sometimes if I just go, like, let's test it right now. If I keep it very broad, because in my world right now, I'm just always trying to network and meet amazing people. My goal in life is I want to have an amazing life. And my belief is if I want to have an amazing life, surround myself with amazing people. Great things will come. If I'm a seller, I may have to qualify down because I'm in a time crunch and I need to meet certain people. But let's practice right now. Daniel, who's the first person or first couple people that come to mind when I say, who do you personally know that you highly respect that is doing something amazing in this world right now?
Ryan Saville.
Tell me about Ryan. Why was that the name that popped into your head?
We were discussing dethroning race and just the community work that he's doing, just making people aware of racial bias, about institutionalized race and what it does, and just his bravery for standing up and pointing out to all sorts of people, Guy, look what you're doing. He's just fascinating, and he's just got such a love for people and culture. Easy.
That is so fascinating. Now, here's the thing. Genuinely, now here's the other thing to the audience. If you're not genuine and you don't have a heart for this and you're trying to manipulate people, here's the thing. Again, I wish everyone would bring me into their company because then we can have more time for this. However, I'm going to say something that I'm quoted by saying, and I hope you understand this. And the context is if you don't have the right foundation, none of this is going to work. And here's two different quotes I always tell people. Principles scale, tactics don't. And here's what happens. If someone tries to duplicate the actions and the activity that I am speaking about without first observing and understanding the intention, that is a recipe for manipulation. Two people cannot do the same things and expect exactly the same results because we're different. That's why one person can tell a joke and people will be offended. Another person can tell the same joke and everyone laughs. Who you are matters. How we think matters. Like people don't get that because they think it's all fluffy and all this personal development stuff. Like there is that stuff that matters, but I know everyone wants the like goods. They think the tactical stuff matters, which is why I'm giving that. But I promise you, like there are some fundamental things that might be out of context because if I just continue to only tell tactics, it will actually sound manipulative, and that is not the purpose. So the next thing I would say is, you know what? First and foremost, that genuinely does excite me. So my ask to you is, Daniel, I know you know, like, trust me. Could you introduce me to Brian? Because I want to learn more about him because I actually think that we would have a wonderful conversation. But here's the only thing I'm asking. When you intro me, can you just say, hey, Brian, I want to introduce you to Stephen. We just got off a fabulous conversation. I wouldn't do it justice, but I know that the two of you would have an amazing conversation. I highly recommend that you just connect. That's it. You don't need to sell for me. You just need to let him know it's worth his time. That is it. And his trust in you should, and it doesn't happen all the time. I'm not saying I'm batting 100. I'm probably batting 90 to 95% on this over my career, right? And it also depends on who you ask and how deep the relation is. But that's all I'm asking is for a conversation. It's up to me to take it from there if there's something else that happens. Now, here for the audience, I'm going to share with you something. If Daniel gave me a name that I'm like, okay, well, you know what? It's probably fascinating. I should always say yes, because if he respects that person, I should always say yes. So I may do a yes and. Daniel, who's the next person you thought of? And try to think of somebody you know in like the enterprise that works at an enterprise technology company. I'm just making that up. You think about an enterprise technology company, is there someone you highly, highly respect that you're like, that you personally know? Who's the first person that comes to mind?
And I can go down that road, and I do know them, and I'm not going to mention them now.
Yeah.
But
But you get the point.
I love the point, and I love the authenticity behind it. Where do you see sales managers hindering a team trying to do this?
Oh, such a great question. I think where they hinder is because they think of direct pipeline from a conversation. And most people think that it has to be one to one. And because of this word attribution, it's very difficult because they say, if I call the person, they do these cadences, they do these metrics, 21 touches gets you a meeting and all this kind of stuff. So if I'm going after the CRO of X company, I need to reach out to them. If I go after the VP of analytics, I go after that person. Now, here's the thing. What most people don't recognize is it's possible. I don't think it's actually probable that you can get to that person quicker. The best story that I can give you is when I was speaking to one of my top AEs. Okay. So it was in my organization. This was a few companies ago. I asked this question over dinner where we were waiting for a prospect to show up for dinner. And this person was earlier in their career, I think 26 to 28. And I asked, why don't you spend more time growing the network so you can get a warm referral in? Because this person, this AE asked me, how do you have such a crazy network? Anytime I ask you if you know someone that knows someone that can get you into that account. So this person started asking me a lot of times if I can get them some intros. And when I asked this question, I received the most genius, dumb answer I have ever heard in my entire career. It was genius because it logically made sense. And remember, this was a high performing rep. So I am not actually demeaning. I am saying the industry has taught our people incorrectly. The dumb part was this, because it wasn't actually dumb. I would say it was ignorant, because what you don't know, you don't know. And it's not the person's fault because, again, sales training has changed. So I do not, let me be very clear. I am not demeaning my person because they were very, very high producing. It also is what triggered me and lit a fire in me to start training this way. All right. So here's what this person said. Stephen, if I wait to try to get a referral, that is an extra step. Mathematically, that is true. If I send a cold call or a cold email, there is at least a chance that I would get a response. Both of these things are mathematically correct and factual. But unless you have lived experience, anybody who has been in this world, in business long enough, they can see this goes back to trying to teach calculus to an ant. If you haven't moved in your experience enough to understand it, it's hard to explain why those warm referrals are way more powerful, even though the mathematical nature of what someone is saying is correct. Remember, we have sacrificed effectiveness in the name of efficiency. And so, what most managers don't realize is even if that person says yes to a meeting, how much longer does it take to build trust? Let's use technology sales, for example. 78% of SaaS deals and technology deals are influenced, started, or the decision is made based on a reference or a warm connection or a referral. Even in that world, right? But most people are still overdoing the AI, the outbound, or whatnot. So the front end, even if you were to get in quicker, cool. Now you've got an 18-month sales cycle. But if somebody calls Daniel and says, Daniel, I need you to talk to Stephen. I have a feeling you have this problem, right? You have a problem with talent. You have this specific problem in your churn rate. You need to talk to Stephen because he is solving that and he's reducing churn rates by 22%. No, that's absolutely my problem. If you have that problem, then you need to meet with Stephen. I just spoke to him. I'm putting this in my company, whatever it is, right? I trust this guy. All of a sudden we just shrink the back end. So by me taking an extra 1 or 2 steps to shorten that trust gap on the front end, It actually shortens the entire deal cycle, and that's what we're not always accounting for, because it might take an extra week, maybe even an extra month. And people are like, well, the first person to get there matters. There's truth to that, which is why you got to start the networking today. In 2 weeks, you can up level your network based on the questions that I just asked you on how to map that out. So those would be the 3 steps.
I want to ask you a question. We've got aspirants for company ABC. You know what we sell. We're in this in kind of the same line, and we don't know anyone because they're in the US, we're in South Africa and Mauritius and whatever. And we go through it and we give a day, we have a look, who knows where, who knows when. Apart from reaching out to Stephen, is there still this possibility of warm referrals into an unknown entity, or do we ignore those and go and land where we've got contacts? What's your advice to a hunter, to a quota carrying? I'm up against it. I want to drive the same car as Stephen, and I don't have time.
Okay, there's two things. It's always a yes and, because everything works some of the time and some things work all of the time, right? So everything works, nothing doesn't. If you are the quota carrying seller that is in a box, you have 5 accounts. That's why I still believe in cold calls and cold emails, because if we have tried everything possible to get into a company through a warm referral, yeah, then you try everything, right? It's like fanatical prospecting, it's all these things, right? So yes, you should still go after it. Now, here's the thing. Again, most people don't truly do everything possible to find a warm referral, because you have to also think about non-competitive people who have the same ICP that might know the same people. One of the best things that I've ever heard a seller say, I asked them what they were reading, and I thought I was one of the few people, but now that I start listening to different people and how they become great sellers, I don't read just sales books. I think about, what is it that these executives are reading? Who are they listening to? Are they reading the Wall Street Journal? Are they reading The Art of War? Are they reading Chinese economics? Are they reading something else? And who else do they know that I can network with? Think about podcasts. This is a great example. If someone wanted to get a hold of me and they just looked online after this is recorded, and they knew you, if anything, they should network with you. And then guess what? You could introduce them to me. There's easy ways to network with people when you're not selling them something. The reason people get on edge is because if you just reach out to someone and they know you're trying to sell them something, they're automatically on edge. But if someone reaches out to you just because they're like, man, I really like your podcast, you have some really good guests on there, I just love to pick your brain about how you ask your questions, how you think about this stuff. And they develop a relationship with you where you're like, okay, I trust this person. Again, they have to be genuine. They're going to get into my sphere, for example. So I think about, if it's a completely cold company, who is everyone else that probably goes into that company? Who's someone else that's doing something, an employee in that company? I guarantee you, especially because I know who you sell into, it's bigger companies, promise you that one employee in that company has been on a podcast.
You're giving me such hope for this week, Stephen. You are giving me such hope.
So you know what the stats are? I don't know what the exact stat is. It's somewhere in the like 83 to 85% of executives will take a warm referral from another employee in their company. So if you get to know an employee in the company and then they get to know you, again, some of it might be long term. So what? Start today. Don't you wish you would have started 5 years ago, for anybody that's listening? So instead of saying it takes forever, if that is actually the case, but it works better, start today. But if that person was on a podcast, get to know them, reach out to them. Hey, I saw you on this podcast. I want to pick your brain about this, that, and the other thing. Get to know them. Learn something. It's a two-way street. And then once they trust you, and again, that sound like, it's so important to understand the heart, because it sounds like it's being manipulative. No, like if you don't actually respect or want to learn something from that person, probably not going to land well, because you'll be so hell bent on trying to get the referral instead of actually networking and learning from that person.
You spoke about having a number of coaches. If you think back, who's been your mentor role model that's taught you the biggest lesson that you've taken forward into your heart?
There's not just one, but right off the bat, Dave Blanchard, Felix Chavandre, Olivia Lockwood,
What did Olivia teach you that just stood out?
everything.
Ah,
So, yeah, I think you actually know, Olivia, but
I do.
when I first saw her in front of the room, she was actually teaching, a cohort of sellers, and I thought to myself, "I wanna be where she's at." Like, I literally just thought that. So I just like, if you wanna be where someone's at, they should be your mentor. I ended up hiring her, paid engagement as one of my coaches, that sort of thing. I am a believer in, like, pay people. I'm not against it. If you can afford it, if you're in a position to do that, I always believe in having paid coaches. But one of the biggest things I think that she really helped me understand is specifically to tactical sales, how to be able to walk away and say no. Like, what's the reality? Don't kid ourselves. She's like a no, she'll tell you the truth. And everybody wants to hold on to every deal and everyone wants to think that they have a shot, but no one takes time to step into the buyer's shoes. No one takes time to just stay in touch with people. No one's very clear on what their words are that they want people to define them by. Like, I know what my words are now because of her. Like, my words are kind, generous, and when I say humorous, I don't want people to think I'm funny. I want people to know that I make them laugh and smile. I know that on my tombstone, here lies the kindest man that ever walked the earth. I'm very clear that there's a difference between character and personality traits. I can be intense, but I can still be kind. Those are not mutually exclusive. She probably doesn't even know this. I hope she watches this because she probably, I now think about this and I'm like, I should probably tell her this.
So we've got a ritual that we do about once every 5 years with our close friends, and we have a living wake. And we have Stephen coming, and we got Jackie, and we got Brett and Ange, and we each get a name before the dinner. And so you've got some time to prepare. And then at dinner, we stand up and I'll say, Stephen, this is who you are in my life. And this is the impact that you've had. And this is what I remember you for. And that living wake is just a way of checking that in so that we don't miss that moment, because you never know. You never know.
That is such a great idea. We're doing something for a friend for Thanksgiving, and it's going to be something very similar, but writing things on a 3x5 index card and putting it in a box so they always have it. So that's fascinating that you say that because that's a great idea.
So we coming kind of wrapping now. I could carry on for ages, but I want to ask you two questions. If you had 10x of your budget right now, what would you spend it on?
All right, I'm going to say something in terms of an analogy. If we're talking about specifically go to market, this is going to make a lot of enablement people very happy, I hope. And I'm also trying to say this from a perspective of being unbiased. So I'm going to give context. Everyone talks about sellers being the tip of the spear, but we don't ever talk about the entire analogy. The analogy is the tip of the spear because we're saying they're getting into accounts and we make it out like they're the most important. I think everyone is equally as important because you start taking away any legs of the stool, they all matter, right? The strategy, HR, legal, customer success, sales, all that type of stuff, right? I really do believe all of it matters. But when you think about enablement, we forget about the actual spear. Which is bigger, the tip of the spear or the weight behind it? And so we have to be able to surround the sellers to do what they are meant to do. We've got to invest in them. So that means we've got to spend more on training enablement. We've got to protect their mind. We got to protect their bodies. Think of them as your prime athletes. Why is it the medical staff that we surround an athlete with is top notch? A lot of these athletes will have private chefs. Instead of making the sellers do everything, we should reverse it and not coddle them. Because I am very clear that if you want this type of help, you've got to have the elite. So I would actually not necessarily reduce The number of sellers, sometimes I would, but I am very much a believer in the Spartan mentality. I don't want this big, massive, force. I want the right, like the movie 300, that knows how to think, that knows how to strategize. But if you train them, if they want to have that level in their life, hire Spartans. Don't hire in mass. It's actually not about quantity. It's not just about quality. When people say quality over quantity, I want to like throat punch people. It's quantity of quality. You want both. Quantity of quality. So yes, quality comes first. Then how do you duplicate it? How do you duplicate it? But it's not hiring in mass unless you're willing to 10x your budget to get them trained up so they become the Spartans. Only hire people that want to be the Spartan sellers.
So my second last question for you. First of all, on a serious note, how do people get hold of you before I ask you these two questions?
Yeah, LinkedIn. If you go to LinkedIn, you'll see the basketball in front of my name, so you'll know that it's me. I have open messaging, so even if you connect, if I don't click accept, the only reason somebody needs to be first connected usually is to be able to message someone, but I have open messaging, so you can literally connect with me and like through messaging regardless. So if you have any questions, you want to have a conversation, absolutely message me on LinkedIn. That is the primary way.
My second question, what's giving you hope right now for sellers and specifically outbound hunting sellers?
I'll be transparent and honest. I go up and down with my hope every single day, but it's also part of why I'm on the mission that I'm on because I don't see enough or hardly anyone speaking and training specifically in what I'm doing. Everyone's going the AI, automation, volume, intent, all those type of things. And even with the book that I'm writing, I want people to remember the basics. At the end of our life, do you think anyone is going to look back and say, I wish I would have worked more? I wish I would have made more money? No, everyone's going to talk about mission, impact, relationships. So if we already know that, I can't find anybody ever in the history of my life that will say or not agree with that. So I'm like, why, especially in the sales world, the go-to-market world, are we forcing our sellers to do things that doesn't impact them in the long run? So I'm going to leave you with this, the 99 and the 1. It's my own parable, if you will. No, it's not a parable. It's just a philosophy. Let's say it takes you, I don't know what the actual numbers are these days. Let's say it takes you 100 attempts cold outbound to get one opportunity. The 99 others, what's going to happen with those? You might put them on a nurture campaign. Who knows? Let's just say it takes the exact same to get one opportunity. You still have to have 99 warm networking conversations. Let's say it's not actually better. The 99 relationships and the networking conversations that you had, those are yours for life. So if you think about the benefit of what it does for us long term, for any seller, any SDR, anybody that's getting into sales, those relationships matter because the wealth of this world is not in the dollars, it's not in the currency, it's in the relationships, it's in the people. When people will change their hearts and minds around that, that's why I go back to mission over money. Even the company that you work for, are they money oriented or are they mission oriented? What type of life do you want? And so, what I want people to understand is this world of sales, this world of go to market, these are not sales principles. These are life principles that are utilized to make your sales better.
I would love to ask you another bunch of questions about maintaining your network, scrubbing your network, strengthening your network. I think we're going to have to get you back to talk around that. I usually end with what's the 1%, the difference that can help us create more meaningful networks that serves the world in a better way.
I think it was the last thing that I said. The wealth of this world. That's what I'll leave you with. The wealth of this world. Define what that is to you, and very quickly you'll see why and what the results in your life will be what they are. How you believe based on that definition is everything. The wealth of this world.
Stephen Oommen, that was a deep dive into the world of networking, but more into the world of who we are as human beings. I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for giving me a little bit of time, and know that we are going to stay in your network. I hope we stay relevant. I hope I stay relevant. I want to thank you, and I want to just speak over you at this time for huge success to our listeners who are, by the time this airs, we're in the new year. I hope for good quota. I hope for great clients, and I just hope for success for the new year. From me, Daniel, to you, be amazing. Have a good day. Thanks for listening to this episode of Because Growth Matters. If you found this conversation valuable, I'd really appreciate it if you could take a moment to rate this show 5 stars on the platform you're listening from, and share it with someone who would benefit from the conversations. Make sure to follow or subscribe so you don't miss next week's episode. See you then.